welcome back to the Scrapologist MMA show. Joined once again by Trevor Hayes.
Hello.
No video this time because the rain, literally rained on our parade.
Yeah,
but that's all right. No problems there. Audio is fine. It is a podcast after all. And we're talking about UFC this coming weekend. I think it's taking place in Abu Dhabi. It's gonna be on Yas Island. Not quite Fight Island. I think this is actually the arena. This is the bigger one. So should be a lot of people in attendance because they love their MMA out there.
Yes.
I would say that's like Fight Town number 2.
It's going to be the future mecca. I feel like with how the world, like you can see it becoming the future mecca of combat sports.
Especially internationally.
Oh,
internationally,
yeah.
it's just,
You could see them promote it to it being like the future blood sport, and I am super okay with that.
Prelims, not much going on.
Not much going on.
A massive Russian invasion of epic proportions.
There's going to be a lot of smashing on the undercard.
Makwan Amirkhani is fighting.
I saw that. That's a fun fight to watch.
He's fighting Lerone Murphy, and I just like watching Makwan fight.
I do too. Like very pleasing to watch. I don't know why. He's just a good scrapper.
He's a good scrapper, and he if he was just slightly better at kind of forcing his game into the fight, I think he would be a lot more
successful. He has a habit of he scraps, but he will fight at another person's pace sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To his detriment, because he'll get gassed out. Like, he got gassed out fighting Shane Burgos, for instance, and it was a nightmare for him. He just got beat up so bad. And then the kind of main event of the prelims is Verta Jandiroba, whose best claim to fame is looking like Rob Schneider.
And winning the Invicta title. All right, come on. All right.
She got third in the National Rob Schneider Lookalike Contest, so that's a big deal.
Did she beat Rob Schneider? Off the wall. Let's just go to the main card.
Yeah, the main card, however, there's some bangers on there. They're starting off strong with fucking Volkan Ozdemir versus Magomed Ankalaev. And, Volkan Ozdemir, I remember when he first came on the scene, Joe Rogan said something like, What kind of name is that? He sounds like a wizard. And I was like, that does sound like a
very
wizard's
wizard-esque name.
That's like the most scary, most powerful wizard of all time. But yeah, he exploded on the scene.
He's been, man, it's tough. Like, he still comes out, but it feels like he's that step behind of where he was that got him to that title shot.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's kind of realized his own detriment is his best attribute, kind of, or he's like, just spent too much time just being quick and hitting people and getting the job done and not really learning how to fight. The more it becomes a fight, he kind of falls behind. So you can really expect like a quick start, but a quicker finish from Magomed.
His problem, definitely. I think Magomed, especially with the grappling issues that we've seen.
And Volkan will just run into a takedown.
Yeah. I mean, really, Volkan is one of those laundry list of guys from about 4 years ago, that got changed by Daniel Cormier. When he fought Daniel Cormier, he saw that
he was
upper plateau,
no.
right?
Yeah.
So Rumble Johnson, Derek Lewis, these are guys who fought DC
and never fought the same
and never really fought the same after.
Derek Lewis kept being Derek Lewis, but that
it didn't change anything about his game, but. I think that's the closest he'll get to a world title is being in there with DC, And, a lot of people kind of laugh that fight off, but that was the kind of fights that Daniel was used to doing from light heavyweight guys against fights like Volkan Ozdemir knocks out 3 people in a row. He said he's got a title shot because back then light heavyweight was so shallow. Yeah. It was, and it's still very shallow. It used to be the UFC's premier division.
It was, and now it's what would you say is the premier division?
155.
You think so?
155. I mean, it's just like Khabib, Dustin Poirier. 155, 170 are the guys that are all at the front of the promotion now. I mean, they would love to have a guy out there like somebody who is like as capable of media presence as someone like Dustin or Connor, but is 265 pounds and just destroys people. And Francis is delightful in interviews, but they just don't want to get behind him 100% for some reason. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, that is funny there.
Before he fought Stipe the first time, they were pumping Ngannou down our throats.
Now that he has the title, they don't want to be in the Ngannou business. Is Gane the better investment?
So I don't know. I don't think Gon's a better investment because he's just a least personable and least charismatic version of Francis with a style that's more unappealing than Francis.
Yeah, you hear Francis's story, you think man, that's what they need to be focused on.
The coal miner, or the sand miner.
Yeah, right. And then when you have this kind of matchup, I really feel like this is Volkan's kind of send off from
the top 10.
Yeah, I think that this is supposed to be a coming out party for Magomed with him. Like, you know how you're saying Volkan being like on the last of that guard of that light heavyweight division where it says 3 fights to go. Where now like Magomed is still working his way up, and he's about to show people that, yeah, hey Volkan, you gotta go. Yeah, I feel like Volkan's got a quick start. It'll be a quick finish by Magomed.
Yeah, the only thing Volkan really has going for him in my mind is the fact that we've seen him knock people out from within inside the clinch without having any wind up on his shot.
That is true. Yeah,
so, I mean, you know, Magomed is... He is that classic Russian fighter, but he's a little sloppier than the guys like Islam.
It'll be curious. Yeah, Volkan just seems to be a bit more hesitant for like that like you said, like his best punches those inside that you don't see, but he seems a bit more hesitant knowing that he's so easy to be taken down. Like because when he had so much belief in that, he was like, I don't care about your takedown.
He was flatlining people for a while.
Yeah.
And then welterweight bout, Kazmat Chimaev, a guy that they would love to fucking have, you know, on the Wiggins box.
And like we were just talking about, where like you said, like that welterweight division. He's like one of those guys the UFC is really trying to.
They're
make a
really
star.
Behind him. Yeah.
They see a big European market push for him, a Serbian refugee. Or wait, is that for Serbia or? No, I thought
Khamzat is from Sweden.
He's fighting out of Sweden, but he was raised in a horribly war-torn country.
Horribly war-torn, Russian-born Swedish professional mixed martial artist.
But he was like one of like the rough parts of Russia.
Yeah, he looks like it. I mean, he looks like a man who's been hit in the face with a shovel many times.
Yes, that is life in Russia.
He's taking on Li Jingliang.
Yes, one of the upcoming Chinese like superstar prospects.
Who I love because he loves to fight dirty. He's a very dirty fighter, honestly.
He is the definition of just blood and guts fighter. And
he introduces a lot of aggression that I think a lot of guys go in there against a guy like Khamzat and they're just already scared because of what surrounds him, the aura.
Yeah, this will be interesting because Lee just won't care. He'll come out.
I mean, that's what it looked like. That's what it looked like on the at the weigh-ins. Like he did not look afraid of him at all, even though. I will say, Khamzat is a big welterweight. He was a full head taller than Liang at the weigh-in. So, I mean, biggest favorite on the card, definitely worth, at least on the main card, I believe. Yeah, definitely worth, actually, of course, Islam has shot up a little bit. But, yeah, I would definitely say Liang's a sleeper dog here. One of the biggest dogs of the night. Because we just haven't really seen...
He's been a bit more active, and Khamzat hasn't been recently. I mean, it'll be curious to see,
We haven't seen Khamzat, and we also don't know, you know, he had a really big health scare, and we just don't know if he's going to bounce back the same from that. So, you know, it might be worth taking a risk. Alexander Volkov taking on Marcin Tybura at heavyweight. Volkov.
I like that kind of heavyweight matchup.
Yeah. Volkov, a guy that I thought when he came into the UFC was just going to blow through everybody and become the UFC champion because he looked so good when he was outside the organization.
Yeah, his run in Bellator really had him as like people expect.
Because he's lean. You know, he's long and lean, and he's just fucking really powerful.
But once I saw him get like out wrestled by Czech Congo, I went, "Oh no!"
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I feel like he. Yeah. Do you see Volkov ever making it to a title shot?
If he KOs Tybura.
Oh, you feel like that would give him a title shot?
No, if he KOs Tybura, he would get a shot at a guy who could earn him a title shot. Because heavyweight's not very deep right now either. Right. Because the top two guys are kind of in limbo.
Yeah, I really feel like they want Volkov to be on enough of a streak to get him a title shot.
They got to do something with Derek Lewis, and they don't want to do Tybura again. Nobody liked that fight. But Volkov is the money fight there with Lewis because you remember that he was the guy who Lewis knocked out in the last 10 seconds of the fight. So he's got a real, a gripe there. Like, hey, I was, 10-8ing this guy in round 2, and then in round 3 with 10 seconds left, he knocked me out. Huge finish.
Yes. And Marcin Tybura, is he out of the Tiger Muay Thai camp? Is that where he's been cross-training?
Marcin. Let's find out.
Or is he American Top Team?
It's one of those two. Training harder than ever, according to this interview here. Doesn't say. I didn't know he was a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, no, he's one of those fighters that he's like surprisingly like more diverse and like people really recognize. He tends to fight the same way each fight, but he has more I hope that this is a fight where Marcin can really show off a more full game plan against Volkov. I feel like he could physically show off more tools in this fight and give Volkov a tough night.
Yeah, I mean,
Volkov could find his range and establish, but if Marcin can introduce a more complete game, I really feel like he could give Volkov a rough night.
And the grappling for Marcin, I feel is big. I feel like that's a big thing, you know. Yeah. Unless Volkov's made some serious strides as far as like takedown defense goes.
He has a hard time being smothered from like guard and half guard positions. So that's why I'm just like that's why I was like, man, I remember him having a better grappling like background that he'll present in his fights. Mm-hmm. So I feel like him presenting problems like standing on the ground is where he has to fight Volkov and get Volkov to get stalled out in like a open or full guard, half guard, just getting smothered position and then break him down to get him back up on the feet.
Then after the heavyweight bout, one of the ones I'm looking forward to the most, not quite the one I'm looking forward to the most, that one goes to the next fight, but this one I am anticipating greatly, Islam Makhachev versus the Hangman, Dan Hooker.
Yes. This is the most cowboy thing anyone's ever done.
That wasn't cowboy.
That wasn't cowboy, exactly, yeah. This is he stayed an extra month in the States to get this fly fight, back out. Yeah, make this fight happen. Yeah. Man. And then Islam Makhachev. Like, people are saying that he is kind of like supposed to be Khabib 2.0 is what people are saying. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
I have a...
Because Islam's good, but Khabib
I have this issue with Khabib. Right, yeah. I have the issue of speciality is my issue with Khabib. It's like, we never really got to see what Khabib looked like when things weren't going according to plan.
Exactly.
Everything just constantly went according to plan for Khabib. Mm-hmm. And he really only ever gave up one round because he wanted to stand with Conor after he really hurt him or whatever. So, he basically gifted Conor one of the only rounds he ever lost, especially in his later years of his career. It's pretty much the only round he lost. Islam is good, and he might even be better on the feet, but he's definitely not as good on the ground, in my opinion.
No, yeah.
Maybe he hasn't faced a level of competition that can bring out some of the crazy shit that we've seen Khabib do, but Khabib was a literal wizard on the ground, and Islam might be close to that level, and just being close to that level.
Islam tries to be too much like Khabib instead of being Islam.
Yeah, but I fear for him because I know he likes to stand, and
Dan Hooker is not the best guy to stand with.
He doesn't look great standing up to me. I mean, he looks good for a Dagestani standing, especially Zabit is the best striker amongst them. But
Zabit is a striker, where Islam he'll throw punches. Yeah, he's gonna throw enough. Even Khabib says he's I'm not a striker, but I know I'll throw punches that matter to get in. He also knows I'll do enough to trade.
He's a strong boy,
and Islam has enough to set up an entry. He doesn't have enough to be engaging in striking matches. Islam needs to be striking to finding reads and making Dan think, oh, he can enter inside there to shut down. He cannot shut down Dan with striking.
And Khabib was a master of the ankle pick, the super low dive single.
And he would clear that space with that big up, that big up jab he almost throw from his hip, and Islam tries to punch straight down instead of up, and to keep that ankle pick space.
He has to go for more trips, and he has to go for more open field takedowns than Khabib did, or he has to make somebody go to the fence like he did against Drew Dober. But Dan, he's very good with his Muay Thai and his knees.
Well, he also understands his footwork to be outside the takedowns well. So if Islam comes in trying to punch, and Hooker's able to backpedal around the cage panels properly and just keep the striking exchanges at the very end, Islam walking in and him being at this little that little half-inch range area, that's where he's gonna get the most damage, and that's where Islam's gonna have to figure out ooh, am I a striker or a wrestler?
Yeah, I feel he,
because he doesn't have the same setups to control that ankle pick space and body lock space.
This is the first fight that I've seen Islam take where I did not think he was. He's going to, actually be in trouble.
Right.
Right? When I saw him coming up the ranks of this division, I was like, okay, he's he's definitely going to slice through most people outside of the top 15 because they're just not ready for that kind of groundwork and that kind of, because that's how Khabib got so far. If Khabib hadn't been injured all those times and been, having weight cut issues that whole, very long period of his career, he would have been as fast of a riser as Islam, no doubt.
100%.
But this is the first time where I feel like we're going to see some urgency out the gate from Islam. There's not going to be this feeling out period. He's going to immediately try to bring the wrestling. I feel like we're going to know.
Well, I'll say this. I can also 100% say Islam getting a knockdown very early on. And I'm curious, I could see a knockdown coming from Islam in the first exchange because Hooker wants to engage a firefight and Islam wants to just throw a strike. Yeah, and that's the issue with being a good striker is that you don't look for wild shots off the bat.
Right.
So I'm kind of almost betting that I could honestly kind of somehow for some reason see an early stoppage from Islam from a wild just something that Dan should have known was going to come but didn't look for.
The strike that put McGregor on his butt.
Exactly.
Khabib.
Yeah.
He just was not expecting that at all. Yeah, I mean, I just think that that we're going to know how this fight is going to play out in the first 10 or 15 seconds.
Exactly, and that's what I mean.
How does Dan deal with the approaching guy, and how does the guy deal with Dan's weapons on the way in? Mm-hmm. And if they don't stall out there and have a neutral game there, if one guy's just obviously better, then the whole fight is probably going to be washed.
Yeah, I could see Dan, if Dan controls the first round, leading the second and third round off of feints and outside fence striking almost.
Yeah, and Dan is just one of those guys where sometimes he looks like a fucking world champion, and sometimes he just doesn't.
Yeah, and this is the one big disadvantage that Dan has is he going to have Eugene in his corner?
I don't think so.
Because that
maybe with it being in Abu Dhabi it will. Because I know Eugene couldn't get to the U.S. because of the New Zealand stuff, but maybe because of it being Abu Dhabi, he might have a little bit easier of a time.
Yeah. So that's always makes me curious of because he also hasn't done camp with Eugene. He hasn't spent that time with him. He's been training at the UFC Performance Institute for this fight. So that makes me going man is we know that he's going to show up and fight Islam, but what is he going to fight?
What's been the quality of the camp?
Exactly. So that's what has me where I'm man, this is supposed to be a better fight on paper, I feel, but with the current conditions, I feel it could be a runaway for Islam. Well, but I'd like to see a rematch after this of
I feel
getting a full camp.
You've cornered enough fighters and done enough time doing MMA cornering where you know that the conditions in camp need to be as close to optimal as possible. Because the smallest little thing can just
and Dan Hooker's the kind of fighter that needs a tight leash from his coach. The more he listens to Eugene, the better he does. The more he does his own thing, the more it kind of goes off the rails.
What is your opinion overall on Eugene? Because he's not somebody that we have as the MMA fans anyway, we don't have a long exposure to him.
Well, he's been a big deal. He's been a big deal on the Indo-Pacific circuit.
Right.
That's the thing where I tell people growing up and being Mark Hunt fans and following the New Zealand scene, Eugene's been around.
Right, you would know him.
Knowing of Brad Quake Riddell, I was a fan of his and for Muay Thai for years. And when I saw him starting to fight in ONE FC, I was like, get out of here. And I saw him come to the UFC, and I went, yes. And then Eugene is a big part of that,
success.
Yeah. Where he even, he's one of those coaches where he teaches solid, no bullcrap, fundamentals and techniques, and just, he's hey, this is how it works.
Yeah.
If it goes wrong, you do this. He teaches proper footwork and game planning, so he teaches just very complete ranges, and, I see when he's a very dot the I's, cross the T's kind of coach, and Dan needs that. So that has me wondering.
For them to be training on Zoom or whatever, thousands of miles apart.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I feel like he's holding Dan accountable, but yeah, I'd like to. Oh man, it makes me nervous of Eugene possibly not being there and running that camp. Yeah, that's different. But Eugene, what was the question again? Sorry, you had.
Just what? I mean, what was your What's your thoughts on Eugene's coaching style overall?
Oh yeah, like I said, it's that no BS fundamentals from the get go, and he's just he is that kind of it's my way or the highway.
Right.
And that's how it is with coaching. He has that right compassion of it's my way or the highway, and it's also hey, I do care about you guys.
Right.
And I care about you. That's why it is my way or the highway, because he is not the most acclaimed fighter. So he has that kind of thing of I've made the mistakes for you. Like, just listen to me, and it'll work well.
When you're that kind of coach, you end up the fighters that you
because
do get, you're going for quality.
Eugene also has coached an Olympic boxing champion as well, or bronze medalist or silver medalist, I think. Like, he's coached. Like, he's not only an accomplished Muay Thai coach, boxing and MMA as well, and he's a BJJ black belt.
Right.
Under the Otto system, what's his name? He got slapped by Gordon Ryan.
A lot of people did.
Oh, that's
I know
true.
you're talking about the guy who did the
crime.
Yeah.
But yeah, Eugene, man, I really I love his coaching style. Yeah, he's like that guy at the top of the mountain that you should seek out and listen to. Yeah.
Yeah. That I think this is a fight
he
where
looks at the fight from every angle that you're supposed to. I feel like he looks at every worst case scenario. He's not a cheerleader.
I agree, and he's not somebody who just says what their fighters want to hear either. Like what I was gonna say about your point about my way or the highway coaches is that when you're that kind of coach and you're my way or the highway, you're going for quality of fighter relationship, not quantity. You're not gonna have like the most fighters fighting under your banner, but the fighters that you do get are there because they mesh with your coaching style, or they've adapted to your coaching style.
And the one thing he does though, and like I preach the same thing, like where it's my way or the highway, and that's just like with the fundamentals, with the game plan and the approach. However, he's also very big about you are going to be your type of fighter, and he lets people work on their own page off of that. Where like even me, like it's like I encourage everyone, like, hey, we fight by the book technically, but you find out through your fundamentals what kind of fighter you are. Like some people are bangers, and he even like Brad Riddell, he's like, man, I don't like the dude who'll stand and trade.
There's only so much you can do.
But you as a coach then go, okay, you stand and trade at these points. Kind of like how like Trevor Whitman trains Justin Gaethje for that, where it's like, you know, he went from a brawler to then going like,
find him.
I will get hit right here to do this to you. Yeah. And you know, and then he has the guys like Izzy, these modern day anime characters, where he just goes like, okay, like be creative. Like you see, like Izzy is always what? Fundamental from the start, and then he becomes creative off of fundamentals. Yeah. Same thing for Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker is a savage, but he's a very fundamental, technically sound savage, and who knows when to be in the fight at the right time. So he has that my way or the highway, but he also says like, I want you to be the fighter that you are supposed to be.
Yeah, there's not
and that goes a long way. Where it's like I've had coaches where it's my way or the highway and no creativity. I'm like, yeah, but you and I are not the same person.
Right.
Like, you know, so where it's like, hey, I love the fundamentals technique, but like, no, I'm not going to fight like that. Like, I'm not going to go power the whole time. Like, sorry, I don't do that.
And there's not really like a city kickboxing style. It's more like there are city kickboxing philosophies. Like they have so many different kinds of fighters, but all of them do have principally like the same agreements, especially around the feinting. I feel like their gym more than any other gym has done more to like bring feinting to the forefront of mixed martial arts.
You know, it's funny, like, and like what I like being around striking for so long, feinting is not something that you see so much at the amateurs. But it is something that can be done. It's all about how it's coached.
But when you and I call a show at Fight For It, what do we consistently see when people look amazing? And it's usually feinting. Like when somebody looks amazing for an amateur, like Travis T-Flex Snyder, that guy that we were talking about the other day, he was feinting those kicks and then driving them home. And, you know, I feel like it's become a bigger deal in the meta since Volkanovski, since Izzy. And, you know, the thing...
I've been preaching it in Muay Thai, like Muay Thai camps years ago of feints, where it's just like, oh, like if you kick someone in the leg and you see they don't like it, pretend to throw a kick. And then you punch them in the face.
Exactly.
And then people just go, huh, what? And I'm like, guys, I do it to you guys. I saw you didn't like my leg kick, so I kept my hand high, the flashlight on, hip feint, you bought, boom, and I'm coming in behind. And I'm like, it's not hard. You just have to have a patient mindset. Yeah. Like you can't be, like Eugene teaches a lot of patience. He will teach a person like the fight is here the whole time, and that's that difference between a striking coach and MMA and not the jiu-jitsu coaches, because it's a different type of pressure. Eugene will also teach creative, constructive, dangerous pressure, like from range and in tight. And they control that pressure, and that's what you get from a lot of striking coaches you don't see from a jiu-jitsu coach for MMA. And you know, Eugene, when you control that pressure, that frontline attack, that's where you're establishing feints. And so he's not. It's not changing the game. He's just showing people like, no, this is how you do feints from day one. like feinting is not something that you find out like on the fly if you can do. You have a coach that shows you what feinting is. And if you will see some people later that day in practice or like tech sparring after, you see that person feinting. Oh no!
Right.
You'll see that one person that they're like, no, I refuse to feint. They engage with punches and kicks and they're ready for defense to offense back on. Like I love that style, but like
some people are just so good at selling them. You know, some people, even though they're
and it's a demeanor thing.
Right. It's not about It's not about
like,
the movement.
Brad Riddell is not going to feint.
Yeah.
He'll feint a takedown, but he's going to punch you in the face behind it. Like where Izzy's going to feint. Even like Dan Hooker will like feint at times. Like Izzy's a feint machine.
And Izzy's feints, he kind of showed that you don't really need to do this dramatic movement to sell a feint.
Yeah, like
once you have somebody conditioned, just twitching your hip in one direction and making them think they're going to get taped.
Every time I've taught feints to people, they're like, "Oh, it's so subtle." Well, it's supposed to be.
And he is a master of subtlety.
That's it. Yeah.
And you know that getting back to this fight, one thing that I'll say is that Izzy especially, but also Volkanovski have shown that ability to be very versatile in the sense that you were talking about
has great feints. I'm sorry, but
what you were talking about the fundamentals with Izzy is that's what makes him so dangerous. Is because when he comes up against a guy who isn't going to engage him fundamentally, he will use fundamentals to destroy them. Like the first time he fought, they haven't fought the second time yet, but when he fought Brunson, he destroyed Brunson with fundamentals. Then when he gets to a guy who understands the fundamentals, he can get creative enough to punish you for being fundamental, like when he fought Rob Whittaker.
Mm-hmm.
Can we see that kind of versatility from Dan? We haven't yet. But that's something that he'll need to beat a guy like this.
They're two different types of dogs.
Yeah.
Like you need like Dan Hooker needs Izzy type striking to beat Islam. He can't use Hangman style hook like striking to beat Islam. I feel
like the Edson Barboza fight.
Exactly. Like you need to be a
sniper.
Like he needs to be looser. He needs to be snappier. His punches crash very well. And he does a good job of like not overcommitting.
And he understands his length.
Yeah. Dan does a great job of not like overcommitting his missed shots.
Right.
So even though his punches are very crashy and not snappy, he does a great job. Like a lot of crashy punchers, miss, have a hard time resetting. Mm-hmm. Where he keeps it so tight, boom, he can just reset back in. But not the way to beat Islam. Like he needs that looser outside, like very active footwork the whole time. Like Dan lets his feet do the same thing, and you can't let your feet. Your feet have to tango a bit to beat someone like Islam. Like when you do that, you get them stuck in the middle. When they're stuck in the middle, they're not going to be able to drive off that takedown. You can't stick them with striking. You have to stick them in place with footwork.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm curious about.
And Khabib had this like almost pride about him where he wanted to kind of jab with people and strike with people.
Oh yeah, when he fought like Iaquinta.
I just don't think you can do that against a guy like Dan. So
no.
I don't know how this fight's going to play out. Likely Islam Makhachev's on his way to another
decision
decision to mount. But you never know. Dan is one of the most like proven lightweights in the world, and you talk about a strength of schedule. The guy has fought like a ton of just top 3, top 4 guys for like the past year and a half. So, and he's a guy who constantly takes fights with people that are ranked below him.
Oh yeah.
Just to stay active. So he's a dog. You can't count a dog out in a fight, especially in Abu Dhabi. Then the co-main event of the evening.
Petr Yan.
Petr Yan.
Man, I'm more excited for this fight. Like the main event, I'm very excited about.
This is the fight.
But this is the fight.
This is the motherfucking fight. Yeah. Honestly, I know a lot of people like this fight a lot better than what was originally booked for the championship fight, but I think that Aljamain Sterling is a very good mixed martial artist, and I don't think it's impossible to get completely beaten down or even have like a very one-sided fight and then a year later come back and beat the guy. I mean, look at what Brandon Moreno did in his second fight.
Right.
So
but man, like that also last showing from like Aljamain showed that like I don't think that he has like I think the dog in him got bit by a different type of like he ran into that dog at the park that was like, oh man.
I said the same thing about him when he got flatlined by Marlon in 5 seconds.
Right, but he hasn't gone back and like fought Marlon, and it's also like Petr Yan is not Marlon. Like Marlon is someone that fades.
100%.
Petr Yan is someone that does not fade.
Yeah.
And that's
not yet. We've not seen that.
Yeah. And that's what I'm wondering, like, what Corey could Corey make him fade?
Well, I was rewatching both in preparation for this weekend. I rewatched both Sandhagen versus Dillashaw and Jan versus Aldo and Jan versus Sterling. And, you know, Sandhagen versus Dillashaw is one of the most high-level mixed martial arts fights that you could ever possibly watch. Another one, of course, also happens to involve TJ, is TJ versus Dominic Cruz in Boston. Mm-hmm. That fight was extremely high-level chess match. And obviously that's not the kind of fight Sandhagen is going to be in here for this time. He has seemed to have some kind of struggle when people really bring the fight to him. Mm-hmm. And Jan is a very early starter, and he brings the fucking fight and the body shots.
What I like about Corey Sandhagen is that he not only sharpens his like striking resume each fight, but his mental game as well. Where like when you hear him talk about like how you just said, like when someone brings more of a fight to him, he's like, oh shit, like that's the next level of fight, but like here's what he looks at. He then surpasses that level of like fight. Yeah. So I'm curious as to like this post, like I feel like what he did in the Dillashaw fight is similar to what he should be doing in this fight.
Right, I agree.
But now I think that he understands like his mentality is what he's worked on the most. Like he kept himself like peaking from the Dillashaw fight physically. Yeah. But I think his mentality is ready to go past where he was for like the Dillashaw fight. Now, it's Peter Yan though.
Well, when you have a fight like that against Dillashaw,
I feel like this fight is going to be won in the third.
Like,
I mean, I can see it going all 5, but I can see this fight dictating. Like we're going to see like first, second round. Like they're both going to have some hard feeling out moments in those first 2. But who starts taking control of that third is who should start like walking away with like 4th and 5th, I feel.
Traditionally, that's when Jan really starts fucking shit up.
So I could see like Corey Sandhagen doing a lot in the first and second.
Aljamain got beat up in the third. Aldo, of course, got brutally finished in the third over the course of like 3.5 minutes.
Like what Peter Yan did to Uriah Faber. Was that the second or third?
I believe that was in the second round. Second round. But yeah, I mean, honestly, this fight... Aldo versus Jan is better than you remember, and I think that Aldo versus Jan showed me a little something about Piotr that I think a lot of people haven't really tried against him, which is leg kicks. Mm-hmm. But leg kicks are what really cost Corey that Dillashaw fight. Yeah. Every time he got leg kicked, he slowed down so much, and he was just not really checking them until the damage was already done, basically. Yes. Yeah. And Peter's boxing is so good. Different and a very different style of boxer too, like a very Russian.
Well, and it's that like what I love is that he's that traditional, like you said, like that Russian European block type boxer where everything is so fundamental, but everything has so much just commitment behind it. But nothing is like his accuracy, nothing's like overcommitted. Like every punch, like no punch is wasted. Yeah. Yeah.
I just think he's in his prime right now, man. Mm-hmm. I mean,
absolutely.
Physically, in terms of where he's at fighting right now, I think that he is just a hard out for anyone.
I see Peter Yan winning this like along the cage wall, where as soon as like Corey's back touches the cage, he's gonna be getting hit with combinations and then getting backed off a little bit, but enough pressure just to be put somewhere else into the cage by Peter Yan. Like, and I see that starting like that third round. Mm-hmm. And that's when Corey has to find out like what kind of fight he's going to be in later on. And like that's where like where you said like Peter Yan comes through in that third. I can see Corey Sandhagen having a rough time like dealing with boxing along the cage, but not wrestling along the cage.
Yeah, I mean, Sandhagen...
Because once your back touches that cage, your punch range gets much shorter being the longer, taller guy. Like, you have to fight a taller guy on the ropes.
That's what I was about to say, is Sandhagen is a little bit longer, so it's saving
But Peter Yan's boxing savviness like will help him dictate where that cage wall is.
Right.
And he'll be able to take away Sandhagen's range. Will he still have, like, straight-up knees to deal with, but a lot of, like Sandhagen's gonna have to be on in there and ready to counter box with like elbow. Yeah, early.
He has to be ready to go early. And he's traditionally taken like a round to come online, so I think that's a big deal.
Yeah. So Peter Yan is gonna try and establish that from the first round. Like you see it starting, and he doesn't break away from that.
He's just such a dog. He's just such a dog, and he brings that like Davison Figueiredo type of energy to every fight. Mm-hmm. And I don't see him stopping now. And his ringsmanship that you were talking about and his ability to cut the cage off, that's how he really stopped Aldo. He made it to where Aldo could just not escape. Like, he was like 3 fighters wide, but he's still just one person, you know?
Yeah.
Crazy type of ring craft from him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of those people where it's like, I see Peter Yan winning this by decision or like maybe a late TKO, but really...
The odds are better for Sandhagen than I would have thought, honestly. Yeah. Plus 190 is respect from the fans.
Well, but that's also because, like, Corey Sandhagen just brings this not last minute, but, like, this, he's an X-Factor kind of fighter where he does still have, like, this, like, potential to do something.
Everybody knows he's a world champion caliber guy.
He is. It's just thank you. Yeah. Everyone knows that he is, like, he belongs to be in that consistent, like, top 3 title fight picture.
He just happens to be in one of the best divisions in the UFC during one of the most talented periods of it.
Yeah, the bantamweights are just all just absolute, like, buzzsaws all around between striking, wrestling, and grappling.
I mean, there's the guy, he's always out there. TJ Dillashaw looms over this division like a phantom.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's just out there in the ether. Then you have Aljo. Then you got guys on the way up like Sean O'Malley. I mean, it's just a really, really
he's
big
fighting
division.
Frankie Edgar on the next pay-per-view
Exactly.
card.
Yeah. So, I mean, bantamweight is starting to get up there with 155 in terms of just solid competition of top 10 filled out with killers. And then, of course, the main event, a fight that I feel like has been booked for years. I've been fucking waiting on this fight for a long time.
Yeah, I can't believe they've never fought before.
Light heavyweight title, Jan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira. I don't know if they were booked to fight each other previously and it fell through or what, but I feel like
I'm stoked for
people have been talking about this goddamn fight for so long. It was January of this year when I went to Knuckle Up Boxing and Fitness to watch Jan Blachowicz take on Israel Adesanya. Watched it with all of you guys, drank half a bottle of Jameson by myself, got so drunk because I was so depressed watching that main event. Jan just laying on Izzy, fucking crushing him, and I'm just like, oh fuck, time to get drunk. But yeah, Jan not been in action since, actually taking on a legit light heavyweight this time.
Yes.
And one of the most proven and veteran guys in the world.
Yeah.
And Glover Teixeira, of course. Glover Teixeira, he does have that one scary knockout to his record from Anthony Johnson, but other than that, he's never really been flatlined by anybody immediately. And Jan certainly doesn't have Rumble Johnson power, but what he does have is you
definitely cannot sit still.
And he has a much more well-rounded game than Anthony, and he's more dynamic than Anthony by a long shot. So while he doesn't have
here's
that,
the thing with Glover, like, people forget how well-rounded Glover is, man.
31-7.
Yeah.
32-7. 38 fights.
Yeah.
38 fights of experience. Obviously, Jan also been in this game a long time, but a majority of Jan's record is outside the UFC, whereas Glover has been fighting light heavyweights in the UFC since the light heavyweight division was the number 1 division in the UFC.
Yes. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. I really just feel like, I mean, the fight is going to be Jan's to win as soon as Glover sits still. Like, it's going to be like a who punches who first in that moment, but I feel like right now, Jan's the person that can take a punch better between the two of them. That's how I feel this fight is just going to come down to, like, they're going to land a punch at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
If I'm Jan, I watched a shitload of tape from
because when you see Glover
versus Alexander Gustafsson. He pieced him up over the course of
he moves, stops to punch, moves again. He can't like where Jan can still. He's a bit clunkier, but he can still move and strike at the same time. Like he can't backpedal well, but he can like march down. Like they kind of create the perfect openings for each other technically.
Yeah, and I feel like Jan, in many ways, is a kind of a more comparable to Stipe than he is most light heavyweights in terms of how he gets down.
Yeah.
He's not quite the most graceful cat on the card, but he can move for a guy that size, and he's in and out really quickly.
His forward movement is great.
Yeah.
But like his everything else movement is like it works because he has so much power. Like his back and offline movement is not as great because that's where he has his power punches. Like he throws hard coming forward,
right?
But it's like a crazed locomotive.
Do you realize,
and then he'll do that to back off to make people anchor back into a heavier shot.
I know you realize this, but most people don't realize how good you have to be at moving forward and fighting to be able to do that against Israel Adesanya.
Yeah.
Because that's how he fucks people up.
Yeah.
It's like he makes them come forward and he fucks you up for it.
Yeah.
So if you can come forward on him and be winning exchanges, you are a very good striker coming forward.
Yes.
So, I mean, yeah, Glover can't afford to sit on his laurels on this one, man. But I have a feeling that he's going to be shooting for his life early. Like, he's going to... Well, I mean, not shooting. You know, he's not going to be fucking blasting doubles out there like Kurt Angle. But he's going to, he's going to try to tie this up and get that power off the table as early as possible. Because... Jan is a good grappler, but he's not on Glover's level in terms of grappling experience, in terms of...
Glover's going to be smoother on the cage wall. Like, if he can... I feel like Glover can do the most damage on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a feeder fight for Jan to get him another super fight.
Oh, 100%.
But I would love to see Glover
with the belt. Do I see really Glover getting this? No,
but you know
what? Here's the thing with Glover is that you don't know what you're gonna get.
Like, that's what this fight reminds me a lot of Bisping versus Rockhold when Bisping came in.
100%.
And people were just like, Bisping's gonna get mopped and shit. This was when Luke Rockhold was like the scariest middleweight anybody ever seen.
Good looking dude ever.
And he was Michael Bisping, a guy who's not a knockout artist by any means, knocked him out cold. Early.
Yes.
And Luke was never really the same.
Same after that.
And it's one of those moments where I was still very early in my MMA training when that happened, and I was just like, this sport fucking rules. like you'll never see...
There's so many underdog wins
You'll never
in
see
MMA.
Bugsy Mogues dunk on Michael Jordan.
Oh, I know.
It's just never going to happen. It's physically impossible.
Unless it's MMA, yeah.
But... you can see a guy like Michael Bisping potentially catch the golden snitch and fucking knock Luke Rockhold out for a middleweight championship after fighting for 15, 16 years. And I love endings like that. But the problem with an ending like that is so often a guy like Glover in this position wins the belt and doesn't retire.
I know.
You gotta fucking retire with the belt. I know it's frowned upon, but do it.
But Glover, please do it.
Yeah,
please.
but do it, right?
Yeah, but please do it. Yeah.
GSP did it twice.
I know. Yes.
Everybody loves him.
He has 2 belts. Please retire with 1 belt, Glover. That is like with Glover. Like, I mean, happy for Jan. He's gotten to defend it, but I'd like to see like Glover get it too. Like, I don't believe in participation trophy. It's not a participation trophy, but it's just like one of those things. Like, I'd like to see Glover get the title though. Like, I would. When you hear his story of like where he, what I hate for Glover is that we missed his best years because of his green card issues. Mm-hmm. Where he was supposed to be the guy that was supposed to come in like Chuck Liddell was definitely supposed to retire. But he kept fighting, and then because Glover was supposed to be filling that space.
Correct.
So I feel like it because they were having it lined up before Chuck was gonna retire.
Chuck Liddell.
Chuck Liddell.
The fact that we're talking about fucking Chuck Liddell.
Exactly. Glover's old. He's a guy that John Hackman and Glover brought in. But
period.
Yeah, but that's also when Glover was at his peak. He was primed to be the next light heavyweight champion after Chuck Liddell. I feel.
Correct.
I feel because when you see the guys at that time, Glover back then could have beat Forrest and Shogun. I feel like Glover could have beat young John Jones, to be honest.
If they would have tied up earlier.
It could have been a different story because, man, if you look at the Glover of old, you're like, dude, fuck all that.
Right.
Yeah. Even the Glover of now is still, fuck all that. But in a different way back then.
Yeah, he was an animal, man.
So I'd like to see, Glover get his, and then, maybe Jan comes back and wins the title back. I'd like to see that happen, but I think we can all see that Jan's going to win that.
One thing that I think is pretty interesting is that Glover has a worse takedown rating than Jan does, career stats-wise.
Interesting, really.
That's very interesting to me. Yeah, so his career stat rating per 15 minutes, the average, is 0.42, and Jan's is 0.44. And it's just crazy to me. Takedown accuracy, 53% for Jan Blachowicz, 40% for Glover Teixeira. That's a fucking ill omen if I've ever seen one.
Yeah.
But like we said, I don't think Glover's much more than an underdog in this one. But at the end of the day, it's not really about predicting people and feeling good that you predicted the fight correctly. It's about just wanting to see good fights.
Yeah, I never like to pick a clear winner. I like to decide, how is this person going to win? And then, like, hope either scenario happens.
I really just didn't want to be the kind of channel that did picks, but as soon as I started putting out videos, people asked for them. Like,
really?
People just asked for them, yeah. And I just don't know why, but
yeah,
people are like, you got to have
bet,
picks.
I'm like, man, please don't ask me for picks and bets. Like, I'm not the guy.
But, like, everybody is, like, 50% accuracy on picks. Like, everybody I've ever talked to that actually keeps up with their accuracy.
I make some pretty good picks and stuff like that.
It's the most unpredictable sport in the world.
It really is.
Fucking John Vellante is in this sport. Like, you know? That's all I have to say about it, you know? A guy like John Vellante's out there just fucking people up. You know, you never know what's going to happen.
You never know what's going to happen with him. He's going to help someone's highlight reel or he's going to ruin your debut. Like,
exactly. Like, or your parlay. One or the other.
No. He's ruined my friend's parlays before where I was like, that's a total, like, gimme fight. And I was like, man, I just fucked everything up for him.
My favorite thing about John Vellante is when he looks really in shape for a fight, and the next fight he just shows up with a massive belly, and you're just like, what the fuck? All right, well, guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Scrapologist Podcast. Me and Trevor are going to head out and find our buddy Gene and probably get some tacos. Stop by Immortales Fight Club, most likely. And maybe we'll do a little post show. We'll see how these fights go. If they're good enough to talk about, we'll do another show with you guys. Appreciate it.